Let's start talking about our historic golf courses that we have here. I know that Hyde Park and Brentwood were
Yeah.
huge,
Yeah.
almost like an epicenter for our area with the civil rights
Well,
movement.
well, they were.
All
Well,
of this just for
just for these guys. Yeah. So they filed suit again. It took 5 years.
that's amazing.
It's a great story.
So then, once they were open up, that allowed for players like Pepper Pete's husband and
Exactly.
other people
Calvin
to
Pete. Exactly right. Yeah.
So, I don't. I mean, you weren't. I'm not sure if you were or were not the feel or familiar with the feel when those decisions happened and what it was like in this city.
which is great.
And I was going to ask you to tell me about that as well as First Tee that was brought here.
Right now, First Tee, we'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the First Tee this year, which is great. And of course, it's the president of the First Tee is Joe Barrow, the son of Joe Louis, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. But right now, the First Tee has over 8 million young people involved in the program in over 8,000 schools in the United States. So it really has opened up opportunities for young people to get into the game. And it really does cater to those disadvantaged individuals who might not have access otherwise. So it's not only in schools, golf courses, golf clubs, after school programs, but the beauty of the First Tee is that it not only gives them access to golf, but it also deals with 5 or 9 core values, things like honesty and integrity, responsibility. So it's using the vehicle of golf to really train citizenship. So it's a great marriage.
Now, did Calvin Pete bring that here to the Jacksonville area, or
No.
was that someone else that brought that here
Well,
and they cultivated it?
like I say, it started 20 years ago. Now Calvin was involved, but like I say, Calvin started his own Cal's Pals,
Okay.
which was for education and golf, because they really didn't have access. They do now.
When was that and where was that?
That would be at Brentwood, which is now the First Tee. That's where the First Tee of Jacksonville is. And of course, Arthur Johnson was one of the district directors, and Pepper Pete was a director, and she now works in the corporate offices.
When was Cal's Pals? When did that start?
Now that, I don't know exactly when that
Okay.
started, but I would imagine it would have been right around the 1990 or early 1990s.
Okay. And I guess it's so interesting to me how someplace that wouldn't allow blacks to play all of a sudden catered to that community in which so many disenfranchised people came
That's right.
from.
Well, Brentwood now is the home of the First Tee and of Jacksonville, and to put it mildly, we've come a long way, which is great news.
Yeah. Tell me about Calvin Pete
Calvin
and his dealings here on the First Coast. I know he won down there.
he won the Players.
Well, I say down there. We are down here now.
We are indeed. Yeah.
And tell us about his connection to Jacksonville.
Well, he loved it here.
And did he finally settle here?
Oh yes.
So,
This is home for him.
so did that? How did that come about? Was it when he retired, or was it during his play, or?
I think it may have been towards the end of his career. I don't know exactly when he moved here. I mean, that would be a question for Pepper.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause she knows. But he loved the area. He loved the people around here. He loved the openness. And that goes all the way back to the 1950s when we saw a big move and opening up.
And even though there were initial problems with segregation on the golf courses, he still made this area his home.
Well, yeah, because, of course, by the time he came, which was in the late 70s and 80s, I'm glad to say that Jacksonville had progressed quite substantially, that things were more open and people were more open. And certainly receptive to to golf for sure, but to African Americans in golf, and especially when you get somebody like Calvin, who is a guy who just, as he says, goes about his business. Golf was his job. He didn't bring everything else into it. He proved himself, and I like what one fellow said when he won the Players Championship. He said he not only won the championship, but he won the crowds. And for an African American in golf, that goes a long, long ways.
It almost sounds like Tiger Woods some years later.
That's exactly right. Well, if it hadn't been for Calvin and people like him, like Charlie Sifford and others we'll talk about a little later, Tiger wouldn't have had those opportunities. But I know when Calvin was asked, did he suffer a lot of discrimination? By the time he was playing, those who had gone before him had suffered it all. Mm-hmm. And he said, "No, I didn't face very much," which I know he did, but he didn't broadcast that. And he like I say, he just went about his business. He wouldn't let those things affect his golf or his life, which is important.